Yes, Geordies, welcome back to another episode. The first thing I want to say, as always, I hope everyone's well. The second thing I want to say is you guys have me working overtime. I created a video once again, just like yesterday, and then I had a post by somebody on Twitter asking me to do a different video. And what do I always say? This channel is your channel just as much as it's my channel. So, of course, I did that video. And secondly, I want to say he's on holiday and he's asking me to post a video. Let me explain. So this is the video I had lined up. I was going to look over 3 6-foot strikers from the Bundesliga that I believe will have a breakout season this season, and I was going to tell you all about them, saying that we should be going in for them. I might still do that at the end of the episode if we have time, where attention has been turned to Alexander Sørloth. I was going to look into Eddie Howe's interview, but I don't want to make this video too much long. Yes, we're interested in Nicholas Jackson as well, so we'll see. But Alexander Sørloth is the new name on the agenda. So we're going to be looking at him, breaking down his strengths, looking at his weaknesses, how you can get the best out of him, comparing him to Alexander Isak. And then if we've got time, because I'm conscious of making these videos too long, we will look at who is the next Alexander Sørloth. But I want to put the post out there because let's just read this post first of all, because I created a post saying, Alexander Sørloth to Newcastle United, what are people's thoughts? And then this Tom guy, what a guy he is. He's baking in sun somewhere on holiday with the boys, but he's still watching this man go. Honestly, I love you guys. I can't describe how much I appreciate everybody that watches. And he said, all right, fella, enough hours are left in the day to add Sørloth into your video for today. On holiday in Mallorca, me and my boys watch your vids before we go out for food. Keep up the good work, made NUFC. Wow. Honestly, Tom, I just want to say I appreciate you and the boys. Have a great holiday. Stay safe, but enjoy yourself. Replied with, oi, oi, that's it. I've just finished preparing a video for 6'4" young strikers Newcastle United should sign. Because of this post, I'm scrapping that and doing an Alexander Sørloth one. Do you know what? We could actually lead the line with 2 Alexander greats in our lineup next season. Actually, let me rephrase that. Sorry. One can become Alexander the Great and Alexander Sørloth, and the second one is slowly becoming Alexander the Bellend. Feels a bit better, doesn't it? But yeah, we're going to be breaking down Alexander Sørloth, and I was thinking, what can get the best out of Alexander Sørloth? He's 6'4", he's powerful, he's big, he's strong, he's a throwback striker. Now, I thought his best season came in Villarreal, where he scored 26 La Liga goals in 40 appearances, which is just absolutely insane. So I thought, surely Villarreal just pumped loads of crosses into the box and the big lad got on the end of them. So I looked up Villarreal's crosses. That season, they finished second for crosses per 90. That was me scratching my head. I was sitting there thinking, where do I go from here? I've had that one idea, crosses into the box, we're going to win the league, going to come to the Premier League, he's just going to eat up everything, bully Van Dijk, and we're just going to lift that Premier League trophy. So I was just sitting there scratching my head. Time went by, more time went by, and yeah, that's it. I'm out of ideas. And then I had a mango light bulb moment. Complementary profiles. He works well with creative number 10s or inverted wingers who exploit space that he creates. And this is why I think Villarreal and Atletico Madrid have been able to get the best out of Alexander Sørloth. RB Leipzig and Real Sociedad, not so much. Let me explain why. So the very first thing we're going to do is look at some statistics, because each in these last 4 seasons, he's overperformed his XG, which is absolutely incredible. Now, there's one season that really does stand out. Let's break it down. In 2021-22, he moved to Real Sociedad. He only scored 8 goals that season in 44 games. He then had a hybrid season between RB Leipzig and Real Sociedad, scoring 16 goals in 47 games collectively. And then he moved to Villarreal. Villarreal took a punt on Alexander Sørloth. During the 2023-24 season, he was absolutely insane, scoring 26 goals with an XG of only 12. That is phenomenal. And then obviously that made Atletico Madrid go, I want a bit of that. So he moved to Atletico Madrid, scoring 24 goals in 50 appearances this season, just gone. 20 of those goals came in La Liga, and he only had an XG of 17, so he overperformed his XG once again. Now let's look at what I really do like about Alexander Sørloth. Look, he's 29. The age isn't my kind of cup of tea, but look, if he's going to be Eddie Howe's man, we've got to back the guy. First thing I like, he's left-footed. We do not have a left-footed striker or a midfielder in our squad. So he offers that little bit of balance to our attack. So I've got to get that negative out of the way. I really don't like the age profile of Alexander Sørloth. And another negative I want to mention before we go through all this, does dynamically have to change the way we play. And I'm going to be breaking that all down during this. But let's look at his biggest strengths. What I really like about him, and I studied him and I sat and watched him today, sharpshooter. He's got such a powerful strike, and he's got this elite ball striking ability where he needs little to no backlift to honestly nearly break the back of the net, but he's so good in and around the box. He's got instinctive movement and anticipation. He's exceptionally good aerially. Do you know when you just look at how strikers move in and around that box and you think, yeah, they've got that centre forward gene? Alexander Sørloth has that. But I must admit, only when his confidence is high. Because who remember, he had a short spell at Crystal Palace. Now, he didn't get the run of games he wanted or the minutes he needed. And when you've got a striker like Alexander Sørloth who can't create for himself, if he's not confident, he's not scoring your goals. You get a few different types of strikers. Some bead of confidence. Alexander Sørloth is one of them. If you can get him thriving, confident, bullish, then he can be a problem in the Premier League. My next favourite thing about him, and this might surprise a few, movement. Now, he's not a big mover like Alexander Isak, where he will drift wide, get on the ball. What I'm talking about movement is he's a bullish traditional number 9, but movement is one of his most underrated qualities. Now I've really begun to understand how intelligent his movement actually is. Now, what he does is he often opts for stopping in his tracks and then smartly arching his run away from his marker. Now, I've put a few diagrams on there, and this is how he creates space for himself and others. It's not that he runs directly down channels. He does that sometimes, but his stubble movements are so intelligent, and that's one of his biggest areas of strength. Now, keep these areas in strength in mind, because I'm going to break down how we have to get the best out of these in order for him to thrive. And my next point kind of highlights the direction I'm going to go into, because he's got a big presence. Now, he doesn't get involved in play very much, and I think this is going to sound crazy. The less he does on the ball, the better he is. You might be looking at us thinking, Antonio, you crazy. You don't want him to get involved in play. What's he going to do? Just be lazy up there? Well, kind of. Just hear us out, guys. Let us land with this one. The mangoes are falling off the tree. Instead, what I would task him with is occupying centre-backs, running the channels and stretching defences. This creates space between the lines. Now, keep that in mind. Now, in possession, surprisingly, he ranks amongst the highest in Europe for successful take-ons, progressive carries, and unsurprisingly, aerial duels. This highlights how he's used as an outlet to terrorise defences, both in the air and on the ground. Now, you might see a successful take-on surprise you. Now, he's not a dynamic dribbler. He's not an Alexander Isak where you will get on the ball, dribble past 4 or 5 people, and you're sitting there in the crowd and your bum's coming off your seat and you're thinking, oh my God. He's not that type of dribbler. A successful take-on can simply be when you receive the ball, you move it out your feet and you evade that pressure and then lay it off. That can count as a successful take-on. Now, that's what he's excellent at. He's not going to get on the ball and hold on to the ball for 5 minutes while he's weaving in and out of players. He's not that type of take-on guy. He's not that one-on-one specialist. He's more of a, give me the ball, I'll move it into space, and then I'll play the ball. That's what you're going to get with Sørloth. Now, one thing I will give him credit for, when he does receive the ball in open spaces, he's very progressive. He will drive into that space powerfully and aggressively. Now, that's a problem for defenders. I don't care what defender you're. If you've got a 6'4" physical profile that's powerful, got a long running stride, that's difficult to contain. Now, his 2 biggest areas for improvement are creativity. He's limited when it comes to providing for others. His first touch under pressure lack. And like I've just mentioned, he can powerfully glide in open spaces, but he lacks that one-on-one ability. Then the second area for improvement is probably agility. He's got limited lateral quickness, limited sudden changes of direction, and limited explosive bursts over short distances. So when I say he doesn't do his best work in tight spaces, he doesn't do his best work in tight spaces, guys. He's not going to come and break down low blocks for us. So what I did this morning, I watched loads of games involving Alexander Sørloth at Villarreal, and I broke down exactly the role they give him. And I think this is the type of role Newcastle United should be giving him, because we've got the profile of players to allow him to have this role. And we also play a system that he can thrive in. And that is, he did his best work in a 4-3-3 system or a 4-4-2 at Villarreal, in my opinion. And he was clearly benefiting from clear defined role in the side. His role was, in the 4-3-3, he was playing centrally of a front three. In a front two, he was playing on the left-hand side. Now, he was tasked for occupying centre-backs, running the channels, stretching defences, and creating space in between the lines for more creative players and technical players to get involved on the ball. Alex Buena created the most shots in La Liga that season. Now, I don't think he creates that many shots without Sørloth creating the space for him. So this role maximizes his strengths, and his strengths are physical presence, towering build, movement, a box presence, but it also minimizes his technical ability. So it takes away his weaknesses because he doesn't need to get involved in play, but he opens up the space for others to get involved. Now, obviously, he will have to get involved in the game from time to time. So when he does, you need to have deep runners from midfield. Villarreal did this so well. Atletico Madrid did this so well because I had Julian Alvarez playing and running from deep into space once Alexander Sørloth had the ball, but also had him thriving in broken play when Alexander Sørloth was creating the space by occupying defenders. So what I'm trying to say is, somebody like Anthony Elanga, Anthony Gordon has to invert and occupy channels and run in behind because he creates a space for them. He hasn't got the technical ability to thrive as a lone striker. You need support around him. So let's look at a few statistics trying to back up what I'm trying to say. So I'm going to compare his statistics from Villarreal days to his Real Sociedad days. So every Villarreal, he was averaging 28.8 touches per 90. At Real Sociedad, he was averaging 34.6 touches per 90. So he was expected to get involved in play more. So his movement wasn't creating space as much for others. So then others around him weren't creating as much for him. Alexander Sørloth is a striker that thrives from service. You don't give him service, he's not going to score goals. And he also averaged 12.9 passes per 90 at Villarreal, which was the lowest in the Villarreal squad. But at Real Sociedad, he was averaging 17.5 passes per 90. So pretty much the Villarreal manager said, I don't want you getting involved in play. That's not what your job role is. I want you to create space for others, allow them to create for you. I want you to be that box presence, be a handful in the box. And I think that's how you get the best out of Alexander Sørloth. His touches in the opposition box was also down at Real Sociedad and went up at Villarreal. He was having less touches per 90, but more touches in the opposition box. That's exactly what I want from my striker, because his goal ratio at Villarreal was absolutely incredible. He was scoring a goal rate of 1 goal every 3 shots, which is simply overperforming completely. So it's clear that he did overperform at Villarreal and Atletico Madrid, but there's a clear message on how to get the best out of strikers like Alexander Sørloth. And just to finally back up what I'm trying to say, if we look at his heat map from Real Sociedad to Villarreal, where does he have his most touches at Villarreal? In between the penalty spot and the 6-yard box. Where does he have his most touches at Real Sociedad? In the right-hand channel, in that final third. So what I'm trying to say is Villarreal was simply misprofiling Alexander Sørloth. Is he going to give you what Alexander Isak gives you? Absolutely not. It would be so lazy for me to sit here and say, oh, he's shit. Well, I don't want him. He's 29. He's old. He's only going to age. Honestly, I want us to sign young players at every opportunity. That is my thing. That is my go-to. That is how I've built up a little bit of a following on social media by talking about young players. So my preference is to sign young players. But look, this window has gone a little bit south for us. Let's be perfectly honest. And if he can come in and do a job for a year and then we'll rebuild and restructure and bring in our director of football, then look, it is what it is. And when I say he's not going to give you what Alexander Isak gives you, and this is exactly why, because you only need to look at that graphic to see, and it identifies exactly the profile of striker you're going to get. You're not going to get somebody that gets involved in the play, links up play with a lot of passes per 90, completes a lot of passes per 90, but you are going to get somebody that is direct once he has the ball at his feet, but he's only direct in open spaces, not confined tight areas. Now, you're also not going to get somebody that's very creative. Look at his shot creating actions per 90 compared to Alexander Isak. So what I'm trying to say is Sørloth is not a self-creator. He's not going to create many chances for others. I think throughout his career, he's averaging less than 20 assists. So he's not going to give you much output in terms of assists. So you need to get that creativity from elsewhere is what I'm saying. So if we're bringing in Alexander Sørloth, we've got creativity from from Anthony Elanga, Anthony Gordon, Bruno, but I would definitely bring in a number 10, 100%, because profiles and partnerships create a successful team. Right, we've got 10 minutes left. I'm going to try and blast through this in 10 minutes. In like true Mango fashion, Would it be an episode without mentioning any youngsters? I did have an episode built on the Bundesliga, so that's where we're going to stick to. And now, firstly, I want to start with two players that I haven't looked into too much detail because I don't think this is their breakout season, but they will make a couple of appearances here and there. First one, Robert Ramstack, a striker at RB Leipzig. He's dynamic, technically gifted, who blends goal-scoring instincts with smart positioning. Now, his three main biggest attributes are finishing. He's so sharp inside the box. One, it's what I love. I remember I watched him against Man United, under 18s, I think it was. He was dynamite. He's instinctive movement, strong ball striking ability. He scored 2 goals that day. He was simply superb. He's got intelligent off-ball runs, finds pockets of space between the line and drifting a half space. Now, he's more of a complete striker. What I mean by complete striker, he doesn't just score goals. He creates goals as well. He can operate as a number 10 or a second striker, offering through balls or quick combinations in the final third. He's a real gem. I would keep an eye out for him. I think he stands at 6 foot or just over, maybe 6'1". And then you've got Otto Strange of Hamburg. Now, Hamburg have just been promoted, so I doubt he will make many appearances, but he's somebody I'm excited about. Physical presence, he stands at 6'1", but he's a little bit more broad than what Ramsack is. Direct attacking instincts, but he's extremely functional in possession. In the box, again, very, very sharp, very alert, good movement, needs minimal touches to get his strikes off, likes his first-time finishes, low-driven shots, that type of striker. His movement, direct movement in the box. Now, he's one that doesn't really drift wide and get on the ball. He's more of a channel runner. So again, it depends what type of profile of striker you're looking at. Now, he's somebody that will hold up the ball a little bit more. He's strong in duels, got good upper body strength to shield the ball and hold off challenges. He knows how to use his body incredibly well. So there's two players that just to keep an eye out over the next few seasons. Now, there's loads of players currently at Borussia Dortmund and Bayern Munich, but I think that would be too easy for me because they undoubtedly have the best players. So keep an eye out for them. There's a couple of players that I will bring out in other episodes, but I think that would be too easy just to look at their squad. So I wanted to look at players that you might not even have heard of before. So the next one is somebody that has played last season, and that is Nelson Weiper. And the reason why I mentioned this guy is because he's been casted out at Mainz, and the reason being is because his contract ends in 2026. Now, he's reluctant to sign a new contract, so you could get him on a short price. Now, he's 20 years old. He stands at 6'4". Now, he's deemed as a classic target man, but he's got more technical qualities in my opinion. So let's look at him as a target man. Clever positioning, uses his body well to shield the ball, hold up play. He brings others into the game really, really well. He works best with direct runners. Somebody like Sørloth, where you've got runners running off him. Jacob Ramsey would love a profile like Nelson Weiper. Now, the reason why I don't think he's a classic number 9 because his movement isn't bullish like a Sørloth, for example. It's more of a alert to space. He moves into space based on where the space is rather than trying to force his way into that space. And for a player of his size, standing at 6'4", he provides excellent pace, footwork, balance, and coordination. Now, what I do like about him is he's finishing. Clinical with both feet, instinctive inside the box, and he's a real excellent poacher. Visibly, one of those centre-forward genes I was talking about earlier. In possession, shields the ball well, uses bounce passes and layoffs. He's not much of a flamboyant player, is what I like to say, but he's got talent, technique, willpower, and conviction. And those were the words of the Mainz sporting director, Martin Schmidt. I love seeing these German words. Martin Schmidt. Areas for improvement. I actually think he's got decent top speed for a man of his size, but his burst over short distances can be limited. Then ball carrying. He's not a specialist in tight areas or one-on-one specialist. He does enough to create separation and lay the ball off, but you won't be getting a similar progression style like Alexander Isak. Now, this is how he compares to Alexander Isak. And as you can see, Isak is more involved in the game, more progressive in his carries, more successful in his take-on, makes many more passes per 90. He creates a lot more chances. But Nelson definitely does his bit. And again, considering Nelson's only 20 years old and only made a handful of appearances, you're not going to get the finished article. And just like my next guy, and that is Max Moerstedt, if I pronounced that right. Let's just say that one more time, because I'm German for this little second. Max Moerstedt. Oh, that was genius. I'm a genius. Right, so what type of striker is this guy? Well, this guy, again, classic target man. He stands at 6'5". Now he's a little bit more thinner. He's got a similar body type to Alexander Isak, where it's tall but lean. Now this guy, despite his lean build, he's a real handful. He's got amazing box presence, instinctive finishing. Aerially, he's excellent, and he can score all types of goals. And we're seeing that in the Europa League with his acrobatic finish, where his first goal in senior football was something like a bicycle kick, and it was insane. Now again, his movement is similar to Nelson's that we've just looked at. It's not bullish, but it's more alert to space. He makes smart runs into the box, down the channels, off the shoulder. He's not yet one of those forwards that go out wide and receive the ball, but that'll come with the experience and time. Now, I've kept finishing in there because he truly is special inside the box. Just those little snapshots, finishing with both feet, excellent aerially, times his movements very well. Like, for a young striker, that's very rare. And when it comes to in possession, solid first touch, understanding of players around him to combine with. He's limited when it comes to flair. He's more function over flair, but he's extremely effective. Now, I've seen a lot of people comparing him to Zlatan. Now, obviously on the eye, he looks like Zlatan. He's got that tall build and he's quite lean and he's very acrobatic. So I can see the comparison, but I do think it's slightly lazy because I must admit, it might be his young age, but he's less flamboyant than what Zlatan is. So areas for improvement. Movement. He's got good movement in those central areas, but he hasn't shown the comfort of drifting wide. So that means it offers less fluidity in the final third. And then again, ball carrying. Again, these comes with young players. He's not a specialist in one-on-one situations or tight spaces. He can create separation just like Nelson, but again, he doesn't bring that similar ability than Alexander Isak does in possession. Now, his statistics are a little bit shrewd because he's only made like 3 senior appearances or something, so you're not going to get a perfect explanation of what his game's all about. But the thing that does stand out there, he works hard out of possession and he creates a lot of chances. But again, I think it's best to compare his statistic point of view later down the line once he's made a few more senior appearances, because I truly believe he will next season. But look, guys, there's everything you need to know about Alexander Sørloth, how to get the best out of him, how he will work, and he can also work in a double man 2-tier system. So if Alexander the Bellend Isak wants to come back and eventually play football for Newcastle United, he can certainly partner Alexander the soon-to-be great Sørloth. But I want to hear your thoughts. I know this episode might have been a bit messed up, but I didn't have a lot of time to create it. Now, hopefully I've done it justice. But it's Friday, it's bank holiday weekend, we take on Liverpool Monday night. Oh, I'm going to the game Monday night, so the review won't be out till the Tuesday, but a preview will be out tomorrow. So make sure you hit that like button, hit that subscribe button so you don't miss out. Tom, have a good holiday, have a pint on me. Everybody else, have a lovely bank holiday, have a drink on me. And once again, I just want to say, truly, honestly, I appreciate you all. Enjoy the rest of your day. One last thing to say, away the lads.